Greetings, fanboys and fangirls. Jared here, back with another part of our huge castle build. Of course, this is for the 90th anniversary castle, and we've done probably about 60-70% of the build so far. You can see that it's pretty well the first half of it is over here, and I have it full up right now, so it's a little more manageable to view. You can see over here that this is the portion that we're starting on. So I guess it's that time. We are going to be looking at bag number 18. So let's get to it. One thing I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do is keep this massive, like, already built part of the castle back there, because it's taking up a lot of space on my tiny little table. So maybe I'll be able to keep it back there, maybe I won't. It's still cool to kind of have it in the background, but still. All right, and back to the second volume of the massive instruction booklets. So let's get with it. All right, bag 18. No minifigure in this bag. It's been probably the most frequent building of minifigs like I've ever seen with a Lego set, just because that there's over 20 of them, so it seems like it just never ends in terms of the amount of minifigs. All right, my pieces over here to the side so that I can work. And of course, there's another bag 18 that I didn't even realize that I hadn't opened, so no wonder I couldn't find the very first piece I needed. I wish I could say this was a rare thing that I don't do a lot, but I do it constantly about just not opening up all the bags right away. I can't be the only one. Maybe I should have some kind of medieval chamber music playing in the background, right? Yep, much as I like this part of the castle, I can't leave it up here. Sign our first part of the build. You shall return. There we go. That's a little bit better, less cramped. What I like about this build, one of the many things I like about it, is so many different spots where it can fold back together. So it's really going to be up to you how much of a footprint this thing has in terms of display. For me, that footprint needs to be as small as possible so that I can actually fit it with all my stuff. So that's pretty important for me. However, who knows, this may be, I'm sure it is somebody's first Lego set out there. It would be an odd one to start with, but hey, why not? And if it is, well, maybe they want to make it as large as possible. You never know. You never know. beautiful. It's strange, but almost with every little bit that you do, it feels like you're shoring up the integrity of this. And that's the great thing about this build, is it seems like Lego is putting all of their expertise in terms of building a really tough structure that's hold together. Hopefully it's a little more solid than, say, Lego Optimus Prime, which I still am considering doing a few little mods too that I've seen on YouTube to make it a little more structurally sound. It had a few little problems. I remember on my live stream of that, Optimus suddenly fell apart. And I remember thinking, oh, well, it's probably just me. No, it was actually a lot of people. He was had a little bit of exploding hip syndrome there. But that's a very rare thing for Lego, and that's just kind of a part swap situation. You shouldn't have to do that, but it's just the way it is. And the great thing about Lego is mods are easy, so you can always kind of improve things and get it more in line with what you expect or what you're wanting to do. I don't think any kind of mods or improvements will be necessary for the 90th anniversary castle, though. It should not be necessary for the steep price. The barrier to entry for this thing is unbelievable. But can't pretend it hasn't been worth it so far. It's a massive amount of parts. It really is. So far, so good. I know full well that I'm not going to be able to complete this thing in this particular live stream. I think I'll make pretty good progress, barring any unforeseen reasons that I have to stop streaming. But that's okay. There's nothing quite so miserable as trying to rush your way through a Lego set, or feeling like you're under the gun, or you're trying to beat the clock or something. It's horrible. It makes it a time trial rather than something to enjoy, something to have fun with. Maybe that is fun to certain people. It's kind of like all the guys who do like speed runs on video games. To me, that is like the opposite of fun. when I imagine why I play video games, or not that I really do very much these days. But you know, there's a huge speedrun community, so I guess there's got to be some kind of fun to be had there. Maybe it's all the glory of trying to say you were the first or something, or that you broke some kind of record. Maybe that's what's driving them, not really having a great time or anything, just trying to compete. Maybe that's the thing. They've done this a lot in this set, and I find it really interesting that I guess you get those really narrow little spaces by combining those vertical pieces. This book continues to just be hilarious as it does weird commentary bits on like each thing you're building. Like it got to this, and there's a little thing that says, "A gear? What sorcery is this?" Oh well. I guess the gear is a very modern invention in terms of the historical placement of this set. Sometimes Lego goes for historical accuracy. I was going to make a joke about Lego striving for historical accuracy, but you know, sometimes they do. The Titanic model was fairly accurate from what I've seen. Not something I would ever buy because it's, number one, it's very expensive, but number two, it seems incredibly cumbersome to display. Not that that could be helped, or that that's any fault of anyone at Lego. It's just the thing's a behemoth. And besides, making excuses for multi-billion-dollar companies is one of my favorite pastimes. So I'll always make excuses for Lego. It's not their fault. It's my fault. One great thing about this set is that it's really easy to see your progression as you go. Like, you don't spend forever tiling a floor or something like that. It's mostly just straight up watching the height just continuously rise brick by brick. So it ends up being a lot more gratifying and a lot more instant gratification about this build. I need to look into getting that chamber music playing in the background. It's really funny when you think about it that we have a concept of what kinds of music should be playing in the background of a castle, considering there was no audio recording equipment available during this era of history. I suppose it's just a matter of looking at sheet music and then looking at what instruments were available and just coming up with how that would have sounded. But that's kind of weird when you think about it, right? Because technically, like, no living person ever heard chamber music necessarily, not in its actual element, not in its actual time. Just one of those weird things that you take for granted about history. And the truth is, we probably think we know more than we actually know. And once you acknowledge that, I think that's pretty freeing. You're looking at the past. Because the truth is, we're probably pretty in the dark, honestly, about a lot of things. Not just one or two things, a lot of things. But historians do a great job of doing what they can with what they have. Building this definitely kind of makes me want to get the old Helm's Deep set out of storage from Lord of the Rings, because that was, I think, my first Lego castle, really. Lord of the Rings kind of drove me into Lego a little bit. I'm such a big fan of those movies, and just how expansive that range of Lego sets really was. They did a great job, really, of covering tremendous amount of content. I would have loved to have seen more from Minas Tirith or something like that, but there's only so much they can do, I guess, feasibly in a Lego set. Still something I would love to see. You almost wonder with the Rings of Power show coming out, which who knows if it'll be any good, I don't know. And I'm not going to make any judgment until I see it. But maybe with that coming out, maybe with that Amazon series coming out, maybe Lego will see fit to do some more Lord of the Rings stuff. However, I think I should probably be ready for it to be either sets based on the Rings of Power, which probably won't appeal to me nearly as much. Well, definitely won't appeal to me nearly as much. Or perhaps they'll be more like retreads, like Bag End and things of the original films. And that's okay. If that's what they want to do, that's all right. I'm kind of young enough in the Lego hobby to where I've not had the experience of buying something really expensive and having it be replaced by a superior version. And I can't imagine that's a wonderful feeling or anything. And I'm not looking forward to the first time that I get really stung by something like that. And there's certain things though that you buy and they come out with a quote unquote superior version, and then you actually end up liking the original more. Maybe that's going to be the case with this new Hogwarts Express, just from virtue of it not really being sized the way I wanted it to be. And it's a beautiful looking set, but they messed up on a few things that I wish they hadn't. That's one of those sets that you have to ask that really unfortunate question where you're trying to figure out who it's for. And I'm not 100% sure who the set is for. It's not really for the Lego train guys because it doesn't work with any of the train system that they had done. So it's not necessarily them. It's not necessarily for the minifig people because it's kind of too big and it's sort of, that's not really, like, the interiors of the train aren't the main focus, and the platform certainly isn't the main focus. I can't help but echo what a lot of people have said about it and mention that you could have sacrificed the crazy track and scale of the train and use those pieces to have done a fully fleshed out platform or more cars of smaller sized trains. So they didn't make the moves that I wanted them to. I was really hoping I would be wrong about that, but oh well. As far as I'm concerned, it saved me a whole bunch of money not being what I wanted it to be, because that's a tremendous amount of cash. We must be doing some kind of gate or doorway here because it's a little more on a micro scale here, little things we're doing. And we're building out more of those rocks on the sides. One set I'm really looking forward to is the new Monkey Kid set, the Heavenly Realms, which I've still not gotten because, I mean, I think I have enough building to keep me occupied for a while with my backlog of stuff, so not really allowing myself to jump into that just yet. But it does look really cool. It's essentially Lego heaven, literally. Or at least the concept of heaven, of Journey to the West, Chinese folklore. So by far the most prominent piece is the light gray brick. So it's this. I just wonder how many of those actually go into the construction of this thing, because it's a massive number of them so far. I wonder just how many there are. This build has been filled with them. Absolutely filled with them. I don't know what to set my goal for this particular stream in terms of what like bag number I need to be on. There's 26 bags in total, and I definitely think that it would be great to get through at least 4 bags, I think. This set is definitely not a sprint. Oops. It's definitely not a sprint. It is a marathon, and that is, I think, reflected in any build of this you would watch. Definitely reflected. And it never fails. Every single time I try to rush, you end up messing up so badly that it ends up taking a long time anyway. Then again, times I try to take my time, I seem to mess up a lot then too. So. However, I'm convinced I would be messing up quite a bit more if I was in some kind of nervous rush to get the sets done. Maybe. I don't know. Lego just lends itself to making a castle with it. Just when you think of big blocky pieces and things, it's such a natural fit. I don't know how it became such a natural fit for pirates, because it is for that too, but the castle makes a lot more sense to me. Almost to the point where you would think that was just the main, kind of Lego motif always, that it's mostly just castles. Which isn't exactly true. At this point, Lego sets, I would say there are probably more Star Wars Lego sets than any other type. I mean, it makes sense. The theme has been continuous since, what, 99 or something? So I guess Lego is mostly Star Wars. Weird, but probably accurate in terms of set titles, set numbers. It's a symbiotic kind of relationship, I think, between Star Wars and Lego. I think at this point they sort of need each other. because you've got the insane profit from Lego Star Wars, which is a constant thing. And then you have a licensing fee that's probably astronomical that the bean counters have figured out that they can charge Disney for the Star Wars, or that they can charge Lego for the Star Wars property. So I would say the ruthless bean counters at Disney have been counting their beans and counting them twice. Noted by all those price increases over the years with Star Wars sets, especially lately. So I would say it's very much a relationship between Lego and Star Wars that kind of has to continue. Whoops. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Thought for a second there, I blew it on that one. What is your most anticipated Lego set that is yet to release? Let me know down below in the comments. The set that you are the most excited about. Maybe it's this one. Maybe it's a set that's released that you've just not got yet, because that's kind of how it is for me with the Lego Heavenly Realms set for Monkey Kid. I wish every theme could be as cool as Monkey Kid. And is imaginative, really, because that's what it's all about anyway. Ah, here we go. I love putting these pieces on. Not only does it give you a whole bunch of progress in one go, but it's also just a big bulky piece that is so tactile when you plug it in. Look at that. Yep, that's the stuff right there. And I love the usage of those in this particular set. They're just using them as kind of a base, using them as foliage, kind of grassland. It's a great, great thing. They're utilized so well. Here we go. Yes, I did just whistle Jingle Bells. I have no idea why. Finally figured out what they wanted me to do, I think. Don't really know what this is supposed to be just yet. No idea. Guess we'll find out. Looks like we might be building up more of this tree in this section. Of course, as I always say, every Lego set does trees differently. You never know exactly what you're going to get. I saw where the Sanctum Sanctorum Lego set does trees its own way, like completely. There is no uniform method for building a tree, and at least I think this is what we're doing anyway with this section. I think we're just adding it. Could be something else. Watch me be wrong. Interesting choice to go with black for the color of the tree trunk. I'm not sure if that is something like some sort of homage, maybe to an older set where the trees were black or something, but maybe it's as simple as that being a better contrast to the gray of the castle. Maybe it's just that simple, but who knows? It very well could be some kind of homage thing. I'm sure someone much more knowledgeable than I am would know the answer to that straight away. Straight away. I'm fascinated by these half circle pieces that plug into the bottom. Not really gotten many of those in previous sets that I've owned. I'm sure they've been around, but not something I've paid attention to, maybe. Yep, I goofed up there. I needed to clip these little pieces on before I attach this. Not even sure what you call these little pieces. Almost look like board game pieces. There we go. Now I've got to put it on. That's better. Bingo. Yep. that connects to the tree right there. It's funny right now, it looks more like a drain pipe than a tree. But we may be about to fix some of that, I don't know. I'm sure that's just something you kind of build in increments throughout. Not really sure what we're doing with this part. Maybe this is more of a mechanism for something that we're building right here. That wouldn't surprise me. Kind of some Technic pins and things going on here, so maybe that's a mechanism. Okay. We're going to say this is an air conditioning unit right there in a medieval castle. Makes all the sense in the world to me. Okay. Be honest, I'm not really sure what this is. But it goes here, whatever it is. Yeah, I'm convinced this is some kind of mechanism because now they have me doing the same thing for the other side, only in reverse. So once again, very kind of technique-y. All right, same thing as before. Plug these little guys in. There we go. We have another air conditioning unit, wall mounted. Perfect. You know, it would be a great little, it would be an expensive one, but it would be a funny project to do some kind of weird mock version of this castle where you fill it with TVs and like coffee machines and things. That would be a modern castle. All the amenities, light fixtures. Huh. There we go. Didn't think that was going to go on for a second there. Shove a microwave in the castle. Refrigerator. There we go. So last time I was building, got to build the Wizard Minifig here. You know, he's looking very classic. There's not Hardly anything revisionist about him at all. And the instruction manual actually made a funny little joke in reference to the Nexo Knights theme, which I was kind of floored by. Because in Nexo Knights, the idea is that the Lego wizard kind of comes back in the future, but he's a hologram, so you would always get him in, you could get him in the flesh in a book, I remember. But he was usually portrayed like this orange hologram that the knights would get, you know, when they needed wisdom or something. And so in the book, in the instruction manual, it makes a joke where it's like, oh, you know, I'm so happy to have an actual body again. So I thought that was pretty great that they at least acknowledged how funny it was that for a little while there, that was Lego's version of the kind of wizard Merlin type of character, I guess. He was what, Merlin 2.0 in Nexo Knights? I think that's what they called their Merlin. So I'm going to assume that this too is Merlin at this castle, especially after the little crack about the Nexo Knights continuity deal, where he's a hologram. Putting these little pins into this brick makes me think we're going to mount something onto here, or it's going to be something for it. Maybe a mechanism, but we'll see. Looks like this bag is just about wrapped up. It'll be time for bag 19. Know how I love to see the walls continue to get higher and higher on this thing. I feel like Lego came up with the exact right kind of height for this set, to where, you know, he would have, if it was too vertical, it would have lost something, I think, in the detail, because they wouldn't have been able to diverted the resources that they did to the actual build. So I think that was probably pretty smart on their part to make sure that it was kind of, it was tall, but it wasn't too tall. If they'd gone too far in the other direction, it would not have worked out very well, I don't think. All right, just a few more pieces. Love these little pieces. It's an easy way to kind of give the castle more of that regal design. Greco-Roman kind of look. love these little pieces. Great way to get more of a curvature very quickly. I was wondering how they were going to use these. Oh, I see. So this is a way to fake columns right here. You see this? Easy way to make that ornamentation on this piece look like the top of your more traditional Greek or Roman column right there. Perfect. Yeah, that's an awesome touch, actually. That's an awesome touch. Okay. Now we have a little gate here. Cool. All right. We are left with count them, two small extra pieces. As I pointed out earlier during this live stream, there is not a lot in the way of extras, with one bag having approximately 0 extra pieces. So, go figure. Okay, so now we are moving on to bag number 19. I'll get this guy in the background a little bit more so I have room to work. We do have a minifig in this one to assemble. 2 smaller bags within the bag. All right, so we have one of the Lion Knights here. We're going to be putting together. Look at that beautiful printing right there. Lovely. Go ahead and put his legs on here, and even the legs have some really nice printing. Love all the little details. He's got some chest armor. I almost hate to cover that up, which, you know, you don't have to once you get it where you kind of get it in display how you want, but still. Give him a head here. Liking the mustache. Definitely more like an 80s minifig. Not in terms of how minifigs looked in the 80s, because they were far simpler than this. Just mean rocking the stash. Okay, well, that's a cool look. He can go with the other Lion Knights. Put him off to the side. It's funny, I'm taking all my minifigures I build and just sticking them on the first half of the build, that structure. And when you know it, this needs to be closed up. It's funny, this is feeling a lot more complete. Just in that last bag really helped the structure kind of start to feel a little more, maybe a little more vertical. So that's That's good at least, at the very least. All right, so we are closing up some of these windows with those pieces I was talking about earlier, where you take these and you stick the flat panels on. So I guess that's what we're going to be doing. It says 6 times, so there must be 3 different windows that are going to get that treatment. Trying not to rustle the pieces around too much because I went back and listened on some of the live streams and that sounds incredibly unpleasant. So you try not to deafen your viewers by just crashing Lego pieces as hard as you can. It's funny, if I'd plugged in my mic, that wouldn't be such an issue. But I didn't even fool with it this time, actually. And that makes 6, so I'm ready to install these into the slots. Like I said, they're just those narrow kind of castle openings, just to give it, I think it's more to vary up the exterior a little bit. And of course, that's an accurate little detail for a lot of castles. More like, I don't know, I've never really thought about it before, but maybe it's more of a ventilation kind of thing than it is a window necessarily, because they are so small. Okay. Here's an example of a kind of a funny little trick that Lego uses. There's all sorts of little things like this that they do in this particular set. It's like, say, for instance, they want you to take just 3 wide here and put just a little gray square at the bottom. And if you turn this, you can see why. It's just meant to act as a cap for this little shaft here. So you can just cap that off and it completes that window, which is, to me, I don't think in terms of Lego. That's why I have incredible respect for the people who design these. And so to me, I don't think like that. I can't like see ahead enough in terms of design to know that I would need to cap off something like that. Oh, I can see here that we have the mechanism that will actually clasp on right there with a little grabber arm. You can hear that click right there. And that's what's going to, I kept wondering when this thing was going to seal up or how it was going to seal up, but that's going to have to be shored up quite a bit. You can see it already pulling the structure, so we're not near done to get that in a usable state just yet. So I'd better hold my horses. I'm going crazy opening that up and closing it up. Don't want to tempt fate. Especially Lego fate, which is not a kind mistress. Like, especially when you move a big set, you're just kind of going on a wink and a prayer that you're going to move the thing without completely dismantling it. Yeah, a few times that's not turned out so well for me. But fill in some of these gaps right here. And the way they do it is pretty interesting, because you can take one of these and there's an angular piece. If I can find one. There it is. This plugs right into the top of it. And from there, that sets into one of the gaps right in here. Again, just ingenious little ways. Kind of using every trick in the book to make this turn out the way that they want. Some more brickwork. Brick bricks, as I call them. Okay. Everything is built with structural integrity in mind. This thing is solid. Even in an incomplete state, it feels incredibly sturdy. All right, gotta have a torch or two burning. There it is. Wait. That's not how you do that. There we go. Perfect. Just cap those off right there. I decided on my live streams moving forward that I was going to make sure that YouTube didn't try to put ads on those. I realized just what a distraction those are to the experience. So I've disabled anything like that. Nobody wants to watch a prolonged live stream constantly interrupted by commercials. So I made sure that moving forward, that is not a thing. And how irritating when you're trying to watch someone build something, then every few minutes try to choke another ad down your throat. Lord knows I don't need any help doing that. I would say, as people on YouTube, we are some of the most advertised to folks on the planet. What's funny is it's hilarious to me how stupid the algorithm can be. Like, say for instance, I don't know about anybody else who's a toy YouTuber or enjoys, adult toy kind of like action figure kind of things, or Lego or whatever. But have you noticed the Lego attempts to give you like completely irrelevant, like child-based toy commercials? Like it's really weird. I'll be sitting there and all of a sudden they'll give me an ad for LOL surprise. And I'm laughing hysterically thinking, you guys really, like, the algorithm has no idea. Like, it just senses that I watched a video about, like, what, Marvel Legends or something. It's like, I know what that guy likes. He wants the LOL surprise. That's what he's after. After a while, I started singing to the commercial with its stupid jingle. Just, it's because what can you do? It's like, LOL surprise, OMG, dance, dance, dance. It's like, what? I don't want the LOL surprise. Leave me alone. Oh, and they're always giving me ads for those, what are they called? Rocket Pops or something? You know, like the colorful little popsicles. And it's always kids that they're trying to make look like are on TikTok or something doing like dances. It's just, oh, it's so ridiculous. I don't know, maybe this is how our parents felt every time like a Sunny D ad would pop up, and they were so ridiculous and stupid, because they were in their own way, but at least they were charming. Yikes, some of these commercials are nightmares. We need more kids. We need more kids like drink commercials with the kid looking in the refrigerator, talking about how he had some purple stuff. Orange juice, purple stuff. It's ridiculous. Even as a kid, I was always like, ooh, what's purple stuff? I thought like I was looking over it at Kroger. Next time I'm at Kroger, I'm going to ask my mom to buy me some of that purple stuff. I bet it's delicious. So the ad did nothing but just make me want the mysterious purple stuff that was in the refrigerator. I remember one time I was at my aunt and uncle's house. It was a birthday party. And I thought I had found the purple stuff in the refrigerator. I was very little. I took a big swig of it, poured it out, and it was prune juice. Needless to say, I had not found the purple stuff. Still remember it. There's some tastes that you just can't forget. Perhaps now I'd be way into prune juice. You never know. Maybe when you're in your 30s, you start to just love it. Can't get enough prune juice. This is really interesting looking. Oh, I see now. Yeah, looking in the book a little bit more. It is like a stand for knight's armor and things. Well, that's neat. Kind of a armory, I guess, for the security forces of the castle, like the Lion's Knights. Why do I struggle saying that in a plural way? The Lion Knights. Maybe it's where they keep their armor, perhaps. It's one thing I always find a lot of joy in, is little minifig scaled Lego furniture pieces. Everything from the mundane to refrigerators and ovens to something a little more exciting like a weapons rack. If it's minifig scaled furniture, brick built furniture, then count me in. You're always going to enjoy seeing what those designers how they decide to interpret something like that. So for me, it's always a thrill. It's the simple things, folks. Certainly not the cheap things, though, right? I can't act like I'm that humble. Because this ain't cheap. Maybe that's the real American dream, thinking that we're all humble and not at all as worldly as we all are. I think we wish that were true about the American identity, but pretty much isn't. Ooh, I like that. Look at that. That is beautiful. It's the most ferocious looking astronaut's helmet I have ever seen. Look at that. And then to top it all off, we have do we call this a plume, I think, at the top of a knight's helmet? Look at that. That is beautiful. Yeah, I like that. And I love how these, you literally, the helmets aren't just like, you know, balancing on them. You literally plug them in so that it's a little more secure, perhaps. Yeah, I like that. All right, we have a couple of different designs of Lion Knight shields here. And there's one more sitting around here. There it is. I just couldn't see it at that angle. Kind of the inverse here with the more yellow prominent. I like that. And those, what's great about the mechanisms on these, or the little protrusions on these, is you have two options. You either hold it like that or plug into something like that, and we're going to be plugging in that peg. So you get a lovely, lovely little display of armor, spear, and shields. Yeah. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, it's a winner. That's a winner. It says, which to choose, a sturdy armet or a nasal helm? I've always fancied a pointed hat. Again, just ridiculous, as they have this kind of running commentary, this kind of gag commentary throughout the build. Oh, I see. And so this is done on a little kind of plate here that has little modular connection points to where you can easily take this back off and relocate it if you want. I don't see me doing that, though. I like where they have it. And this is starting to become a lot more clear on the intention of this structure, like in the way that they have it laid out. Before, I was a little murky on what they were trying to do. Okay, so now that we've built that kind of little minutia there, we're kind of back into raising the castle walls, as it were. So we're kind of got to go back into that mode. All right. It's brick by brick. Again, the most prominent piece in all these bags, the brick. Nope. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm really excited to see this thing keep coming together. And that archway does a lot to define that section just a little bit more. So it's amazing to see the complexity of this just come together. And I think the best part is it's wonderfully uncomplicated in its complexity. And that's a weird thing to say, but I don't necessarily, it's really just the scope of it, just the size of it, the huge piece count. That would be, I think, the barrier to entry for a lot of the younger fans. But this is definitely something that I think parents who like Lego, I think that they would be very much interested in putting this thing together. It's just a lovely model. Absolutely lovely. When I got this set, I happened to be in Orlando. And let me tell you, the people lined up to get this set on VIP Early Access Day were not kids. They were my age and older, so we're looking at 35 and up, which this set is definitely marketed to older fans. I was kind of amazed by Lego's blatant marketing to the older fans for this set, because I kept getting emails that were like, what does it say? This is the way to celebrate your middle ages. So they, I think they knew who they were designing this set for. But I still argue that I think most kids who love Lego, or maybe who would like something like this, I think that with an older sibling or something, that there would still be a lot of fun to be had here. I mean, this would have been a dream come true for me as a kid. It still is today. Definitely. Especially when I was a kid. And, oh yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, the whole family getting in on this would be, I think, ideal, because it's a little something for everyone, I think. And when I was a kid, because I was a kid of the early 90s, seeing just commercials for castle sets that was a huge deal for me. That was when Lego, to me, before they acquired Star Wars as a property, which really made a big difference, that was when it was the most appealing for me as a kid. Especially, I remember so vividly there being a commercial where it's shown a skeleton fall in through a trap door into a dungeon. Or maybe the minifig fell into the trap door, and then there was a skeleton down there, and I think it glowed in the dark. I'm not sure. But the pirates and the castle sets, those really blew my mind as a kid. But mostly seeing them at Toys R Us more than anywhere else. It's kind of weird for me to see pictures that people take at Toys R Us in Canada, or to watch like Brixie videos where he's doing like Lego hunting and his usual stops are like Toys R Us and somewhere else, since it doesn't exist here anymore. Absolutely. Well, when you say that, that kind of goes with something I'd mentioned earlier, because I was talking about how pretty much that it's become this like symbiotic relationship between Star Wars and Lego, to where it sort of has to exist from a business perspective, even if it doesn't have to exist from a creativity perspective. Not knocking those sets necessarily, because they released some great sets. But I think now it's so ingrained, because you look, and I think Star Wars is still the #1 selling Lego theme. And so I think Lego, like you said, they sort of have to keep going with that. There's almost no other option. And I think at this point it's pretty obvious that most of us in the adult Lego fan community look at that and they're kind of like, okay, we realize that there's so many sets that, that would have been more original that they push to the side and they don't focus on. And that's why I'm always trying to support things that I think look cool, that are original, and kind of veer away from buying just straight up everything licensed. There's still things that I get that are just kind of unmissable, like the Marvel Daily Bugle set. But for me, it's more looking at things like Monkey Kid, and certainly Lego Icons, I guess they're calling it now. Yeah, we'll go with that, Icons. That's kind of where it's at for me, or at least that's where it feels like it's at. It's funny, I have enough Lego VIP points to get their $50 discount, and I'm always kind of questioning myself if I try to let that increase or just go for something right now. Yeah, that wall art, those are beautiful. I don't own one, but they sure do look cool. I was really impressed by the looks of the Batman one that they did a little while back. I thought that was really cool. Especially because Jim Lee himself designed like some of those, or I guess all of them. I mean, how cool is that? It's great to see them kind of try a new form factor like that and see what happens. I bought one of the helmet series that they're doing, or really the busts. I don't really know if you could even call them helmets at this point. It was the standard Batman one, and that was a really fun build, but I don't know if that's the kind of thing that I would continually like keep popping in for. At first, I kind of wondered if their plan was to do like all the different Batman cowls on film or something, or different comic book versions. But it almost seems like that idea stagnated or something. Seems like that's not as much of an option. Of course, it seems like Lego's relationship with DC isn't quite a thing anymore as much as it once was. I remember when there was so much focus on Batman at Lego, and now it just kind of went away. Used to, Batman was a massive theme for Lego, and I enjoyed it more when it was less based on movies or what have you, and it was more like Lego was doing their original interpretations of Batman concepts. Like, I'm hoping things are quiet right now because Lego is reformulating kind of a way to do more original Batman content, or more just DC Universe content. But it's a shame to see so much cool stuff coming down the pipeline for Marvel, and then DC is just completely ignored. I don't know what that is. I don't know if Warner Brothers has become difficult to work with or something. I mean, they're canceling their own movies, so apparently the people who work for Warner Brothers would probably agree that they become difficult to deal with. So, yeah, I agree. Yep, doing their own thing. And those sets still have a tremendous amount of value and are still really eye-catching to this day. You look back and you see what they were doing with things like their Batcave set and things like that, and those were really cool. Their original Batmobile design and things. And maybe they took that to its natural conclusion and they couldn't go much further or what, but like in my mind's eye, I look back at that first Lego Batman video game, and that feels like a million years ago. And I know it wasn't, but in my mind, that's kind of the vibe that I really liked with Lego Batman when it was less refined and movie-esque and just more like, oh, here's this weird thing, that Lego is doing with Batman. Getting some little archway pieces in here. I'm very impressed by the interiors on this castle. I'm also incredibly impressed to see it, like if it's fit together, how good it looks, and how it still looks completely legitimate split apart like this, because that would have to be a difficult thing to do, to come up with kind of a scheme that would work both ways. It seems to me like Ninjago is the great devourer of original potential Lego themes. It seems like used to, you look at the early 2000s or the late 90s, and there was all these original themes all covering different kinds of boys action motifs, I guess, for lack of a better term. And now, for better or worse, those things are absorbed into Ninjago. It's just like a little while back, I know that they did that, like the originals was fulfilling one of those niche kind of deals, as an original theme. But case in point, they were, it was a little while back, they were doing the underwater Ninjago stuff, which looked really cool. And you could tell it was kind of a follow-up to the Lego Atlantis stuff, which is stuff that I really love and was really original. But because Ninjago exists, those sets were Ninjago sets and not a return to Atlantis and not an original, sea exploration theme. And there's nothing wrong with that. I like how versatile Ninjago has proven to be. But at the same time, you can't help but just ask yourself as they try all these different things, well, what would this have been? Or, I'd say that some of those same feelings may crop up for some of the Indiana Jones sets. It's going to come out next year. But at the same time, I don't know. I feel more okay with that because I feel like Indiana Jones is Indiana Jones. So if that makes any sense. And I don't feel like it's taking away from the potential for another theme, but it's funny because Lego used to do, even after they acquired Star Wars, they used to do all these original space themes. And they did them pretty consistently. I hope that sales for the Galactic Explorer, whatever you want to call it, the spaceship, Lego spaceship, for the 90th anniversary, I hope the sales are good, and I hope that that kind of proves to Lego that they can also do original space stuff alongside Star Wars, and they don't have to bump into each other along the way. But that's not necessarily a thing. You know, you can do something very different than Star Wars. Like, I would love to see, and I don't think it would, due to political stuff these days and social stuff, but like Space Police, maybe maybe they couldn't call it that anymore. Who knows? Or wouldn't call it that. I would like to see more Space Police stuff. I mean, it wasn't too long ago they did Space Police. I would even like to see things like Ice Planet come back. Nowadays, they would probably just look at me crazy and just be like, Ice Planet? Ice Planet, you mean Hoth? uh. This is funny. I must have placed a longer piece somewhere where I should have put a shorter piece, because now I don't know where another 4 long is. Let's see. This should be pretty easy to figure out. At least that's what I think would have had to have happened, because Lego isn't, these days, they're awfully accurate to the point where you're not going to have too many missing pieces. Or at least that doesn't seem to be much of a thing anymore. I always chalk it up to my own error. Let's see. This should be pretty easy to find. Although it would be pretty funny if Lego did put the wrong piece in. It'd be a little tragic at first, but it's not typically something that they do lately. Let's see. Maybe this is it. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yep. I believe that's it. Apparently this piece should have been a 3. And I kept wondering why it was working out the way it was. Yeah, it wouldn't be impossible, that's for sure. I think everything is sorted by computer now at Lego. It used to not be. I did have one funny situation though. It was for the Lego Batman movie. I bought the big Batmobile that was, you know, the monster truck looking one. the first one they did. And in it, I was given 2 of, I think, bag number 2, but no bag number 3, which is one of the weirdest things I've ever had happen. But the solution to the problem was probably even weirder. Rather than return it to the store, I thought, okay, Lego's customer service is excellent. And it is, for the most part. But this situation was a little weird. I asked them for just basically bag number 2 or 3, whichever one it was that I needed for that build. And they were like, oh, yeah, we'll help you out. And at first, I think they were having a hard time believing that there was an entire bag missing, but it definitely was. They doubled a bag. So they sent me kind of what they believed was the selection of pieces from that particular bag. And everything seems okay at first. But then I start trying to build it, and yeah, it's not all the pieces from that bag, which was already a little surprising because that's not exactly like Lego to not get it right. And so I inquire about it, like, okay, well, just tell us which ones you need. So this time I come out with exactly the parts, the numbers and everything, like I look it up. And what happens is not only do they send me the replacement parts once, but due to some kind of glitch, they continually mail me the same selection of replacement parts over and over again until it's becoming kind of a problem. It happens like 5 or 6 times. And I eventually just call them straight up and I'm like, hey, you all may want to look into this because apparently you're sending me the same thing over and over again. And that, they thought, I mean, I could really tell that they were having a really hard time believing that that was a thing. And they claim that they finally, fixed it or whatever, and finally, after a few days, but I believe that in the end, I got 8 of the same exact packages and of Lego parts, and they said it had something to do with somewhere in the system. It just kept kicking again and again and again, thinking that it had to keep mailing me these parts. What's funny is in some ways, maybe I should have just let that continue just into perpetuity and then just let it, just see how many of those pieces I could get. But I didn't want to do that. Yeah, they explained it was some sort of glitch because they eventually figured out something about it. But it was kind of hilarious, but also incredibly irritating. You would go to the mailbox. Okay. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. All right. If you guys can still hear me, leave me a comment and let me know if I'm back or not, because I don't. Sorry about that. Hope you guys can still hear me. I think my wife was trying to fix something with the internet and turned off the router for a second without knowing I was streaming. All right. Hopefully you can still see the video and hear my voice. I hope. But you never know. It does all kinds of weird things on the YouTube app when you're trying to live stream, so you just don't know. All right. looks like we are on to bag number 20. It's funny, but we are getting into the final parts of the build. There are 26 bags, and so now we're kind of getting into that kind of home stretch, I think. You can see here pieces. Sorry about your ears. The phone that I'm using to stream tends to pick up Legos being jostled more than it does the human voice. So should have been a feature that was listed. Maybe that's good for ASMR Lego videos, right? Maybe that's a thing. I'm not really into the ASMR like scene. I know that there's a big audience for that, I guess, but it's not necessarily something that appeals to me. So to each their own, but it's just, I don't know. I'm more just weirded out by those videos. Especially with the people who do the ASMR videos who are wearing like the gloves and stuff. It's kind of like, it's a little weird. All right, back in the saddle. I've built a lot of adults welcome sets, icon sets, whatever we're gonna go with. And sometimes you get the bags out and there's just this, as much as you're enjoying it, there's kind of a dread that washes over you because it's all these tiny little pieces that don't amount to very much in terms of progression. It's not a very chunky selection of pieces. But I want you to look, if I pan the camera down a little, these are the kinds of pieces you get in the Lion Knight's castle. And to me, that's substantial. Like, there's no super tiny pieces. Everything is building to giving like a lot more massive kind of bulk in the castle. So to me, that's a major win for these kinds of sets because it keeps it feeling a lot more vital as you build. It feels like you're getting more. It feels like the progress is happening more quickly. And I think as I get older and you build these, and of course time is precious, and let's face it, you know, we're all super busy, then you want something to show for your time. You want something to show for your effort. Maybe the best paced Lego set of all time in terms of feeling like you were making really substantial progress as you went might be the Monkey Kid city set, because that set is full of those wonderful little mini buildings. And so each bag was either an entire mini building or half of a building. So you felt this constant kind of feedback of just the experience was really there. It was really pacey. All right. Oh, yeah. That'll do it. See, that's what I'm talking about with more of that structural integrity on this set. Everything is as solid as a rock. As it should be for this price. Lordy day, what a price it was. It's one thing for every compliment you can give a set like this, especially since the price increases. You also have to turn around and be like, well, it should be. Talk about egregious pricing. I saw recently where LEGO announced the Lighthouse set, which was a LEGO Ideas set, I think. And I've been looking forward to seeing the final product on that. Well, it turned out really, really great. I wish some of the color choices were the same as they had been, but it turned out well. I liked what I saw. But then, when you hear the price of the thing for what it is, and I know a lot of it has to do with the motorized function of the lighthouse, like actual light turning or whatever, it's really hard to kind of just be like, I don't know how to justify that. I think LEGO may have a hard time adjusting consumer expectations with the economy doing what it is and inflation doing what it is, and I think that may be a little more difficult than they were assuming it was going to be. I do appreciate them giving a heads up about the price increases, so if there was some set that you were just desperately trying to get, or even wanted for your kids or something, it was great that you had the opportunity to do that, to get it ahead of that increase, and at least they were transparent, so I do have to give them quite a bit of credit on that. But I'm telling you right now that people, I think, are going to be a little more finicky with their money, and that seems to be what's happening just in all areas, in all sectors of the economy, and here in America. I think LEGO is going to be, I think they need to be a little smarter about how they're using piece count and really thinking about putting it towards the elements of a model that people are interested in. One thing that surprised me about this particular set when I picked it up in Orlando was at the LEGO store at Disney Springs. It was unbelievable the amount of stock that they had ready and on hand, and that was with a line that went around the block. That they were loaded for bear. This was not a situation where they had short shipped something or didn't have enough for everybody. No, they had enough for days and days and days of constant demand. And so I'm thinking that LEGO is angling this set to be a long-standing, evergreen, kind of continual thing, because I think that they're expecting this to do big numbers. And I hope they're right, because unlike some of the recent set reveals that I had a few little issues with, I feel like this is a good standard moving forward for what you should get for your money. It's not fantastic, but it feels appropriate for what you get, because there's just so much to it. So I guess at the end of the day, the caution is that they just need to make sure that what they're doing is worth it. And they're going to have to be more careful than ever with their releases. I can already see that the new Hogwarts Express, the Icons Hogwarts Express, that's not going to have as long a shelf life as the other Harry Potter expensive sets, because it's just they weren't as careful as they should have been with that set and some of the choices that they made. And I have to get more finicky with which Lego sets that I build and which ones I buy. Because with those price increases, consumers are going to tighten the belt. They really are. I'm going to be right there with them. I'm thankful that I don't live near a Lego store. Because if I did, I think I would find that a lot harder to do. It's one thing for me, and this is the type of consumer I am. I can see something online, and I want something bad enough seeing it that way. But lordy day, you put it in front of me, and I'm twice as likely to grab it. I'm twice as likely to buy it in-store experience. And that may be something just from my generation, because, you know, I'm the Toys R Us generation. I'm those guys that were used to seeing things in a store versus a new generation who maybe won't care about that. Maybe. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I think, different experiences. For me, I'm wired to see something in person and then make a judgment on it or whatever. And I'm not as wired to see it online as I think the up-and-coming generation will be. So the presence of a physical, like, retail Lego store always kind of is more of a sell for me when it comes to the sets. But then again, we saw what happened with the Disney store just this past year. Disney stores have pretty well gone out of operation. Disney said that they're pretty well moving those to in-store experiences from like larger retailers like Target. Like my Target, you can see the one I'm closest to anyway, they've remodeled and they've added this Disney store-esque like section, this experience that is kind of like a little Disney store. And they've dismantled all their like mall stores. So is the same thing coming for Lego stores? I don't think so. Lego is a lot more of a focused thing. The Disney stores was just like, hey, it's, you know, this is Disney merchandise. But it's not necessarily this, like, you know exactly what type of product to expect. That's the kind of thing that I would call a shopping store, to where people are shopping far more than they're actually buying in a Disney store. At least that was always my experience. I hardly ever bought anything from a Disney store. Number one, they were, you know, really an expensive, super expensive retailer. And you would find things in the Disney store that you could find other places, and this is in terms of action figure collecting. But it was much more expensive there. You see, the Lego store doesn't necessarily have that issue because they're, you know, just selling at retail. And it's a very, very specialized thing that they're selling. And the Disney store didn't really dip into the whole exclusive aspect near as much. They tried that with Star Wars. That didn't really go over too well with their action figure line that they were trying to sell. So there's that. But the Disney store didn't ever really embrace it the way the Lego store does, particularly with their gifts with purchase and VIP point things. And I think if they continue to lean into that the Lego store will stick around, particularly because they've opened new ones and just, you know, all the time. So, but at the same time, one of these days, you can probably expect the same kind of downsizing that Disney did with their boutique kind of experience stores. It's just a fact. It's just the way it is. more brick bricks. There we go. All right, looks like we're back to tree building now. It's funny, that tree just continually moving up the side there. So as we build the height of this, we're also building the height of the tree. Okay. Okay. Looks more like a little turret, right? Something you would see in a 70s episode of Doctor Who. There's something I probably should have paid more attention to when they did the Lego Ideas Doctor Who set. Probably would have been a fine idea for me to have grabbed that. But however, those were kind of early days of Lego Ideas. And they've certainly improved their quality quite a bit since then. So that's the kind of thing that, who knows, maybe they'll eventually do a new version of the TARDIS one of these days, and it'll be a little more accurate or something. So maybe I shouldn't fret too much over losing out on that. More of these odd little tree structures we're building. At least that's what I think this is. Right. Okay. They always show you attaching this at a blind angle, but I find it much more beneficial to actually look on the side and plug it in from there, because, yeah, I need to be able to see what I'm doing. Trying to tear everything down. I think I'll be curious to see if this ends up looking more like a tree as I move forward. At least I'm pretty sure that's what I'm building. So, because right now it's like this big black tube. It's like a sewer pipe. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I guess that's what it is. Yep. Go. There's very few themes that I would look back at with Lego and say that maybe their heart wasn't in it. But I sort of think their Ninja Turtles builds that they did, I don't really think their heart was in it. Those, I don't think were ever as good as they should have been. They did the 2012 like Nickelodeon CGI cartoon. They did a layer for that. That was pretty cool. It looked good, but structurally it was a mess. It would just fall apart, and I've always thought that it just had a tremendous amount of problems. Got rid of it eventually. And then they did a really kind of expansive line of stuff for the first CGI live action Turtles movie forever ago. And I liked that line all right. But probably due to lack of maybe reference material that they didn't get in time or something, it just, a lot of those builds seem so completely soulless. One of the sets for that I remember was just a big semi truck. And like, I know that it was supposed to be like the Foot Clan semi truck and it came with Karai and stuff, but it was just, there was nothing to it. I mean, it was this big gray truck and it didn't scream Turtles to me. At least they did the fairly cool little party wagon from the movie, but that's only in the last scene of it. It was just shoehorned in to be a toy seller. The minifigures were cool. I like those all right. But particularly the Turtles lair was pretty disappointing because it was so nondescript. There wasn't much life to it. And say what you will about Playmates toys and their Turtles merchandise over the years. Some of it's been great, some of it has been not so great. But they always knew how to spice up, the lair playset. Whatever they did with the Turtles lair was always a winner. Even in the more controversial series, the Rise of the TMNT, that lair set was beautiful. I didn't ever own it, but I mean, it looked awesome. So, yeah, I don't know. Lego, maybe they just weren't feeling it with the Ninja Turtles. And they let that lapse. So, now, I'll tell you, I really, this may be sacrilege, unsubscribe, right? But I really liked what Mega Bloks did with Ninja Turtles. Like, they really put their heart and soul into that brand. And they no longer have that license. But when they did some great sets for the second CGI live action Turtles hybrid movie. Those were awesome sets. And they did even better sets for the Turtles cartoon. Particularly the Technodrome. Just an absolute masterpiece of a build. No, the quality isn't as high as Lego. But it was sure cheaper than Lego. Like, a lot cheaper. Like, not even close. But, you pay for quality. And often you do get what you pay for. All right, it looks like the pieces that I have now will go towards making a drawbridge, maybe. So, or at least part of the drawbridge. So I'm excited about this. I'm definitely curious about this. So I guess I'll go down to a more comfortable level to where I can actually see what I'm doing a little better, because I'm not going to have to be so vertical here. At least I think that's what this is. I don't know. saw where the era of CWDC shows is shortly coming to a close. CW has a new majority stake owner, and DC is continuing to distance themselves from that stuff, and anything like that that they do seems to be on HBO Max. So I think it's safe to assume the CW DC universe is pretty well over. I think this next season of The Flash will be a short season, they said, and that will conclude The Flash, and then that show's over. So I think, I think they're calling it a day over there in CW land. I was an unapologetic fan of the CW verse for a lot of years. Really liked a lot of the things that they did in their heyday. And it's okay that it's ending, because I honestly think that was probably, they did all they could with that, and even did a fairly successful adaptation of Crisis on Infinite Earths on a TV budget. So I have nothing but respect for Greg Berlanti and his production teams that were able to pull off what they did on a TV budget. I'm sure working conditions probably weren't the best to make those shows with the amount of time and money that they had, and sometimes you could tell. But I still have a lot of respect and great memories of those shows, particularly Arrow and the first couple seasons of The Flash. Great stuff. Great stuff. It was a shame to see shows like The Flash lose their way a little, though. I think they got to a certain point, and then they kind of running out of ideas, doing lots of weird stuff to make the show keep going. So it's like I always say, most shows you really can't do more than 5 seasons or so before they run out of steam. Not to say that there aren't funny exceptions, like Curb Your Enthusiasm. There's a show that can probably just continue into infinity. No one will probably mind, and they won't lose much quality as a result. As long as Larry David is alive, chances are it'll be a good show. And it'll continue. Kind of looks like we're building a sled. I don't know, maybe it's a sled. Down here a little lower, we can see more what's going on. some wild inverted building techniques to make that work right there. I don't know if that was obvious on camera, but it was really crazy. Um, just to kind of invert that build, what they did to get that angle. This is why I have such respect for the people at Lego, because I can't think like that. I mean, maybe I could if I tried, but I don't. Sometimes I think the people at Lego are thinking in the fourth dimension or something. I have no idea how they get a rhythm for this. I am the type of builder who I'm just happy to monkey see, monkey do instructions. It's funny, this drawbridge piece here, at least that's what I believe I'm building, is a little more monotonous than, just building the castle structure, because it's got those qualities of having all those internals and little pieces, and you don't really feel the progress as much as you focus on something like this. I mean, I think it's just a necessary evil for something that's supposed to perform like a function that this does. But it's worth at least noting or acknowledging anyway that, hey, this, you don't quite feel the fun as much when you're putting this thing together, because it's kind of a little sloggy. I think part of it, and I know why, I know the logic behind it, that they want to kind of break it up to where it's not just constant building walls of the castle, so you take a break and kind of do this element. And it's good that they're changing it up. At the same time, it almost breaks the momentum that you were starting to see the castle really get bigger, and it's kind of growing, and then all of a sudden you're doing this thing. So maybe it will be well worth it once it's done, because now we're attaching, I think, the chains perhaps for the drawbridge. That's cool, at least. Wouldn't it be interesting if Lego did like metal chains on their stuff? That would actually be pretty cool. There's probably some kind of materials reason that wouldn't be a good idea. I'm not a materials engineer, so I don't have a clue. I just know it looks cool. In my head, anyway. Okay, so I have this darker brown color, which has not been very prominent in this set. Definitely stands out once you've used so much of the light brown over time. Yeah, let's see what I'm doing a little better. All right, now we have just the brown panels. These are just the flats that go on. Hopefully it'll be a little more obvious what they're going for with this once we have these hooked in. Okay, excellent. All right. So we're gonna lay this to the side. And more kind of technical building, because I think right now we're building the mechanism that will operate this bridge, or at least that will cause it to work. Now I'm curious, I've never had a Lego Drawbridge on anything but the old Lord of the Rings sets for Helm's Deep. So I'm curious to see what they've learned since then in terms of making a function for something like this. It's funny, these are just kind of wobbling around down there. Okay. This is funny. Maybe I put these in. Yeah, I think I did. I think I put these in incorrectly. So, tip for anybody building this, you can't put these in like this with the short spindling over here. You have to go like this. That's why those were so loose a second ago, because these have to be put in the other way. There we go. So much better. Who'd have thought? Who'd have thunk it? Okay. Now we'll try those pieces again. There it is. Okay. Yeah, that tightened it right up. I'm glad that I discovered that early instead of trying to put the mechanism together and being like, oh, why won't this work? Or even worse, claiming that there was some kind of design flaw when I really just didn't have those in correctly. It's probably something, usually they'll do like a little exclamation point or something to show you that you have to be careful about what direction a piece is or something along those lines. Maybe that's what they should have done here, because that was a very easy thing to mess up on. Like, very easy. I'm gonna say it was easy to mess up on to help my own feelings. There we go. These are funny. We use the arrow pieces. You can see the little pointy tip right there. And we close those off with a little white pieces. Okay. And then those go in through the bottom. And the white pieces allow those little arrows to function like Technic pins. Just slide in and snap. Okay. And then from there, it looks like we have some more chains. And those are just going to mount to these pegs. There we go. There's one. And one more. There we go. Fantastic. Okay, we're going to link that to these chains, apparently. All right. And that's just going to link to the top of that. This one, same. All right. Now it just shows us dropping this mechanism into the slot in the castle. So hopefully this is an okay angle. All right. Okay, I think this is right. Not like that. Let's see. And the castle was destroyed. Okay, let's try this again. There we go. Okay. Apparently, these get mounted onto the top back here. So going up. Well, this could be more frustrating than I gave it credit for. I'm having to now go off camera to fix some problems. Okay. Now, I'm thinking maybe it needs to be maybe vertical. As I just like drop it down and then, yeah, okay. Yeah, that was right. That was right. Okay. And this apparently supposed to drop down. I'm gonna have to turn this around to see what's going on back here. Oddly, all it shows right now is just it hanging right here, and I know it's not gonna stay like that. But that's, at least I don't think it will, but that's all it shows right now in terms of instructions. Okay. Let's get him turned back around. There we go. Okay. Such a funny mechanism. All right. So now I'm going to use one of these big pieces down here. It almost looks like we're closing off the bottom of that so that you don't see the underside of the drawbridge. And then we're capping off the sides. Okay. Now we're taking some flat pieces and sealing it off. Just kind of tidying that up and making it look a little bit better. There we go. Just kind of smoothing out those rough edges. It looks like we've got an archway right over top of the bridge. shoring that up with some rafters. Okay. Okay. Oh, I turned that the wrong way. I was wondering how they wanted me to fit that in. I guess this clip is meant to hold some kind of accessory on the other side of the wall. I'm just sealing off that arch. Give it a little more integrity. Okay. Again, I love how everything you do in this build just seems to be dedicated to making sure that it shores things up. Seems like everything is kind of aimed at that as you go. So here's something that was really confusing. You have these two pieces. Earlier, I must have misread the instructions and thought that the wider piece, which is meant to be like those two, was what I was supposed to use on the drawbridge. So, bad as I hate to, I guess I need to, probably need to fix that real quick. But, oh well. Let's see. Go back and make sure about that. I'd hate to disassemble that for no reason. Yep, that's what I did. Thankfully, I can just remove this assembly as one big thing, so that'll just pop right back up there. And then down here, the only thing I did was sealed this part off to where that just needs to honestly just go. There we go. Yeah. See, that wasn't quite as traumatic as I thought it would be. Pretty much just two big assembled pieces. And you can see what I'm talking about here. You see that solid part? That should have been these two. Oh well, what can you do? Ah. There we go. Okay. And I don't necessarily know why they used separate pieces down here within the solid piece up there. I have no idea why that's a thing, but apparently it's a thing. So it's better to fix it now than to have a fully assembled model and put yourself through all of that business. Hey, look at that. There we go. It wasn't so bad. It wasn't so bad. There we go. Now let's see if I can. Yeah. Okay. Good deal. Not bad. Not bad. remember, kids, if something goes wrong in your set, stay calm. It'll be all right. I've been in a lot tighter fixes. There we go. Perfect, perfect. All is well now in the land of Legot. Okay. As we were. Okay, now, just so that we can see, plugging that right in. Not 100% sure what part of the structure I'm even building. Here we go. Oh, I see. I guess it's just a part of the top up here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Just plugs into that little area right there. Clicks in and shores everything up, just like I was talking about. Seems like that's consistently the theme with this set. Everything you do just continually adds to the integrity of the model, making it stronger and stronger. You know, except when I do that. That's good. That's good. Yep. And I love me some little mini arches right here. To me, there's hardly anything more castle-y than these little mini arches. Let me make sure I'm doing this right. Yeah, I didn't do that right. I'm putting them in the wrong spot. I'm too excited by the presence of mini arches. Okay. Oh yeah, that's nice. That makes little curved windows in there. It's kind of hard to see from here, but I assure you, they're nice. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Nice. Not much more on this bag. We're just about wrapped up with bag number 20. And then after that, 6 bags to go. As hard as that is to believe. Okay. be sealing off a little bit of the architecture here in this door frame. Let me give you motion sickness here. With these cool little pieces. And that's what those little divots are for. Those little studs there. We're doing a little bit of foliage building here. Looks more like a vine, a flowered vine that's growing. So it looks like we're going to connect a few of these. A little bit of a chain here. It's amazing just how versatile these pieces are. Oh man, the lavender on these are fantastic. It looks more blue to the camera, but to me, it's coming across as more of a lavender. The use of color is just one of the greatest assets to any good Lego set. Woo! All right, it's a little hard to see what they're doing in this part, but I think I follow it. Essentially, we're going to use those other little holes to basically put this thing up. I think. Okay, so just peg that in right there. There we go. And I think you just kind of curve this around and you just attach that stud right there. And voila. Now that is a cool effect. How awesome is that? I see now what they're going for with this, where it's like trying to say that through the other side it's coming through and then the vine is growing. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I like that. I like it a lot. Okay. All right, okay. And they're going to do some more with the other slots there because we have a few more of those vine pieces. There we go. Ah, yeah. So this little relief here gets this pegged in, and then that climbs and continues the effect. Even better. Even better. Wonderful. All right. Move on. Almost done with the bag. Just about 6 or 7 pieces left. Maybe a couple more. All right. Ah, I see. So we'll have to get kind of a little higher so you can see what I'm doing. This will complete this. That's why we put that seemingly random little 1x2 brown piece on there earlier. See, now you get one of those little modular bases for some kind of piece of furniture, maybe. That's what I would guess. Then you just complete the floor with the thinner piece. Beautiful. All right, and seemingly our last step is just to fill in a little incomplete area of floor right here. You can see it right there. There it is. Just gonna put lay down some 1x3s right here. I think the choice for the sand brown, I think for the floors was a really good one because it contrasts so well with the stonework on the castle. I think that was a very wise call on their part. All right. Looking good, looking good. So here's the real question. Do I cap off this live stream here and then continue another night, or do we do one more bag? That's the real question. I don't know. You help me decide. I don't know whether we go on to bag 21 or we call it a night right here. I mean, it's a decent place to kind of call it quits right here before we continue. Let's see. Oh yeah, that is nice. You can see our funny cylinder tree working its way up. Yeah, everything is looking great. Really great. Okay. Well, I think this is probably a fine spot to call it quits. It's a Sunday night. It is the day of rest. So I'll go and do some of that. Anyway, though, I thank everyone who stopped by, even if just for a minute. And of course, God bless you and yours. And hopefully I'll see you real soon so that we can continue this awesome build. We're so close to the finish line now. I have a feeling that is going to spur me on to the end. So till then, God bless. Take care. And I'll see you on Fanboys Forever.